Since not too many videos exist on this particular model of BVM, the A32E1WU, I figured I would make a quick little video and go over a couple of features found on this monitor. So currently we have Marvel vs. Capcom running on the Mister on the CPS 2.0 core, and this is about the best example of 240p content that you're going to get on a BVM. And yes, many people are going to get on to me and say, well, this thing is not great for 240p, which I admit you're not going to get a lot of pixel blend on this, but it is quite satisfying to see some 2D pixel art on here. But the reason why I mainly wanted to make this video was because when I researched this model before wanting to invest in it, I couldn't find too much information on the menus on it. So today we're going to be going through the menu settings. Alright, so this is the base menu of the A32, and here you can find picture adjustments. And in picture adjustments, you're mainly just going to be adjusting your phase, chroma, or if through RGB like I have it now, you only get your brightness and contrast adjustments. Alright, and you have 5 different presets that you can choose from within the picture menu. And next you have your color temperature adjustments. And in the color temperature adjustment menu, you can come in and you can make your adjustments based off of a white screen. And what you would do here is that you would put your own colorimeter on the screen and do adjustments on your PC using a program such as HCFR. However, Sony did also produce a 14L adapter, which would plug into your BVM and allow for you to make these adjustments automatically. The BVM would just perform them for you. So I'm not going to mess with that. I spent a decent bit of time doing a couple of different color temperatures on here. And next we come to the input configuration menu. And in here, you basically just choose which of your cards on your monitor that you want to use. And as you can see, I have each individual option here, and none of them are grayed out because I have the SDI/HD SDI card. And this monitor in particular supports dual link HD SDI, and what that means is that you can get a 444 RGB signal going through this from dual link HD SDI. And in addition to that, you've got composite on the back, you've got a YC Luma and Chroma connector, which whenever I bought it, it came with a Luma and Chroma splitter for S-Video, and that's what I used there for a while. And you've also got your component input, which is also RGB, which is what I have selected here. And from this menu as well, for each input, so we're on channel 1, and for channel 1, I have it set to 4x3, but if I wanted to stretch this out, the BVM actually can stretch out any 4x3 content that you put into it. But we're going to keep it right there because that's blasphemy. Alright, and from here as well, you can set your sync. Not too much else here is super important. You also have your marker display in case you're trying to center up your image, which I know can be important to some calibrators out there. And next you have your system configuration. And this is a menu that I personally haven't messed with too much because a lot of this has to do with linking multiple of these together. And obviously I don't have more than one A32, that'd be quite the endeavor. So a lot of this is just mostly things that you're not going to be touching, but I'll go through each one just to show. And this is one setting that I still need to look into. I'm not exactly sure what Gamma SW does. I've noticed it doesn't do too much to the image. I want to say it's a very slight sort of adjustment. And the maintenance menu can also be entered, but I will need to check what the password is very quickly. Alright, so whenever they made these, they had a backdoor passcode for Sony broadcast text. And this one does not accept the default passcodes that would normally be found on this, so I had to find a backdoor passcode. And if you ever need to get into one of these A-series that's been locked by the previous owner, you can type in the passcode 53415. And as you can see, that's 5 numbers, so it's kind of weird that they set it to that. But then you press enter, and you get into the menu. And from here, you can do software updates. don't touch that unless you know what you're doing. You can do picture adjustments and color temperature adjustments from here as well. You can reset the CRT turn on time, which a lot of sellers I've seen do to try and fetch more money. So don't do that unless you're a bad person. And you've also got your video board in here, and I'll just go through all these settings. Vertical blanking, G2, blanking on left and right, YP or Y or PRG, YG, PB gain, contrast, subcontrast, brightness, center brightness, drive level, all sorts of calibration options are found in here. And then you got your deflection board. And this is something that I wish that I had known when I had bought it, is that you do not want to mess with horizontal phase. And horizontal phase is going to be the only option that you can find in the base adjustment menu without coming here into the service menu. So please note that if you need to shift your image horizontally and you try to do it through horizontal phase, that's going to introduce a linearity issue to your computer, or to your A32, sorry. So I recommend go into the service menu and make that adjustment from there. And you can also do rotation, more linearity settings, pin balance, corner pin, keystone, convergence, dynamic focus, all sorts of fun stuff. And then here, I don't actually have this BKM68X, but I do have a BKM68X clone card. And that clone card accepts component, RGB, it has a SCART connector on it, and it also has a VGA connector on it, which is how I'm feeding the Mister into it currently. And then your 14L setup, which I don't own, so I won't be messing with that. Alright, so then we get to our installation settings, and this is where you would make your purity adjustments. And mine isn't exactly warmed up yet, so it's a little bit gray and fuzzy, but that's just because it's still warming up, so I'm not going to mess with that. And whenever you do your landing adjustment, you can either select it to use an internal signal, which the monitor generates, or it can accept a signal from an outside source. So, as you'll see here, if I set it to external and went back to it, it would just keep Marvel vs. Capcom pulled up in the background. So that can be useful when color calibrating, but I don't really think it's useful for a landing adjustment. And then, as I said before, you got your alignment menu. And as you can see, you've got horizontal size, you got vertical size, and you got vertical center, but there's no horizontal center. And a lot of people think, oh, well, since I don't have it, I want to use horizontal phase instead. But no, please remember you do need to get into the service menu to make that adjustment if you don't want to mess up your linearity. And then we have all these settings, once again, that you saw in the service menu, plus a very interesting setting, which is the fine adjustment convergence. And this takes a very long time. I have a buddy who is actually has already developed a software to automatically do this for you. But what this does is that it allows you to select any point on this entire grid, as you can see moving around the cursor here, and you can adjust vertical and horizontal convergence for each of these zones and get it absolutely perfect. And I recommend any BVM owner, I know it's a headache, but you're going to want to do that on the A32 and D32. And digital uniformity adjustments are basically what you would use in addition to your landing adjustment to try and make the screen as wide as possible. And once again, I haven't done this setting as well, but I plan to at some point in the future. And then you got file management, not really worth messing with. You got your status menu, so if you're purchasing a BVM, you're going to want them to come to this menu and show you this. And this particular model here, you wouldn't believe it, but it's got about 12.5 years of operation time. But you want to note that on the A series, operation time also takes into account the time that the screen is turned off. So if I hit this little button here on the control unit, and send it into standby, that hour ticker would still keep going up, although it's not actually on. So the CRT itself here actually has just about 2.5 years worth of use, so these things will hang in there for a while. However, I have heard that this particular tube can have some issues around 10,000 hours, tube shorts, that sort of thing. But if you make it through about 15,000, you're typically good up until about 40,000 when these start to wear out. And another thing from Sony is that they recommend that you run this monitor at a measly 70 nits, which is still bright enough in a pitch black room, but you're not going to be wanting to use this as your living room TV. As you can see, you turn on the lights, you lose just about all of your contrast. So, gotta keep the lights off with one of these. And then you just have your controller settings, just things that you don't really need to mess with. And yeah, that's pretty much it for the menu system on the BVM A32E1WU. If I didn't cover something or you'd like to see something else talked about, just let me know. Thank you for watching.